I'm Jennifer Della Quadri, and this is Subtle Shifts, the podcast where you'll learn how to transform your life from the inside out, one small, meaningful shift at a time. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast. This episode is going to be filled with a lot of information. It's kind of like a masterclass in how you perceive the world and how to shift your perceptions of the world. And that may sound really big, but I'm going to break it down into some very straightforward and simple concepts so that you can understand how you are seeing the world and also know how to shift back and forth so that your experience of life is more joyful and you feel a little bit more in control of your life. So there is a concept in the coaching program that I took called the 7 levels of energy. I haven't talked about them on this podcast, but it's something I use in my coaching. When I'm coaching someone, I'm always looking at it through the lens of what level of energy is this person coming from? And then my role as a coach is to help shift them into another area of energy if it's feeling like they're open to it. So I'm going to be sharing with you this concept in great detail here on this podcast episode. You're probably going to want to listen to it more than once because there's a lot of information. It's going to be like a fire hose of information, but good news, once a podcast is out there, you can come back to it. So take this, bookmark it, save it, because you're going to want to use this anytime you're in a situation in your life where you're like, I really am unhappy or unsatisfied or there's something is off here. You want to come back to this so that you can relearn the 7 levels of energy. I'm also going to be hosting a workshop this month on the 17th, totally free, to take this concept into a deeper level to help you apply this theory to your life in certain areas where you're wanting to shift things. So mark your calendar. You can go ahead and sign up in the link in the show notes, and I would love to see you there. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. So just knowing here, the concept is that everybody has varying levels of energy. And the idea is that you can shift between energies to help you understand or change your experience of life and those around you. It really helps you when you have this sense of control. It helps you feel a little more purposeful. You're able to get more done with less effort in your life. And you'll also feel a little less stress and attract the things that you're wanting to attract. And all of the things that I'm speaking about come with awareness. And that is what this concept that I'm teaching you is about. Your level of energy creates your world. And when you alter your perception of yourself or your work or your life or people around you, you can create a more powerful and fulfilling and rewarding life. So let me start by explaining a concept of the 2 overarching levels of energy. They are anabolic and catabolic energy. So for all practical purposes, when I'm talking about the 7 levels of energy, they fall into these 2 categories, anabolic and catabolic. Anabolic energy is that constructive, expanding, fueling, and healing energy. It's growth-oriented, and it helps you have just a more complete and conscious view of what's going on around you and more easily come up with solutions. Catabolic energy is a draining, resisting, and contracting energy. And so it might give you an energetic boost so you can combat and what you see is a stressful situation, but it's also distracting. And it acts as a blinder through which you see just a limited view of situations. And also on a long-term basis, it can really take a mental, emotional, and physical toll. So those are the 2 overarching energy levels, anabolic and catabolic. Now I'm going to dive into the 7 levels of energy. I'm going to explain each one and I'm going to give you an example. And as I do that, I want you to run it through your filter and ask yourself, when in my life do I show up with this energy? And before I get into it, I want to be very clear that there is no right or wrong or good or bad with any of these levels of energy, being in any of these levels. But there are advantages and there are also disadvantages to each level. And the goal is just to have more awareness of who you are and how you act. That is the goal, not to judge. And it's also just to understand what drives your perceptions, your feelings, your actions, so that you can recognize and change habits and patterns that are no longer serving you. And really just to be able to respond and not react to the stressors in your life. We all need that. So I'm going to start with level 1 and 2. They are both catabolic energy levels. So at level 1, you're a victim to certain events, thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and perceptions. They hold you back from success. So in level 1 energy, there's feelings of guilt, fear, worry, self-doubt, and low self-esteem. And it can be in general or just in any specific aspect of your life. It doesn't have to be overarching. There can be certain areas in your life where you're feeling this way. You feel trapped by your certain circumstances that you're in. You might avoid situations or difficult issues. You might have trouble making decisions because you feel helpless to make a difference about anything. The core thought at level 1 is, I lose, or I am losing. And it's also important to recognize at level 1, everybody has level 1 energy. We all have it. But it's not somewhere you're required to stay. So I'm going to give you an example of level 1 energy. So let's say you wake up every morning feeling exhausted before the day even begins. You feel like you're just going through the motions and you're wondering, is this all there is? You're feeling powerless, overwhelmed. You're stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and resignation. So now the question that I want you to ask yourself is, where in your life do you feel powerless? That might show you where level 1 energy is showing up in your life. Now I'm going to move to level 2, which is also catabolic level. This is a level of more conflict, and the core emotion here is anger. So this is where black and white thinking comes in, right and wrong, good and bad, win or lose. And the core thought here is, I win, therefore you must lose. And in level 2 energy, you can get stuck focusing on what's wrong or what's been broken and who's to blame. And it can be really draining over time, impacting your quality of life and ultimately your relationships. An example of level 2 energy is waking up feeling frustrated, resentful. You've spent years putting everyone else first and you just feel like no one appreciates you. Maybe having thoughts like, why do I have to do everything around here? I know I thought that a time or two. I've sacrificed so much, and what do I get in return? Or my family, if my family actually cared, they'd help out without me asking. So also things like getting irritated when your kids are ignoring your request to clean up, or snapping at your partner because they forget something. Just basically feeling like no one else is pulling their weight. That's how it can really show up, especially for us women in midlife. So to find where your level 2 energy is, the question you can ask yourself is, do you notice yourself reacting with blame or frustration? And in what situations is this happening? That can show you where your level 2 energy is showing up. Okay, the rest of the levels are all anabolic, and I'm going to start with level 3. Level 3 is a step up from level 2, and there's more rationalizing energy happening here. There's a coping, like a making the best of its situation. It is what it is. This is where you're taking more responsibility for your own thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, and you know that what you think and feel is ultimately up to you and not someone else. The focus here is just like in level 2, it's on winning through achieving your goals and meeting your own agenda, but it's different than level 2 because there's also an awareness of the other person winning as well. But in level 3, it's only after securing the win for yourself. So the core thought here is, I win, and hopefully you win too. So in level 3, you're finding ways to cope, release, forgive, tolerate, and compromise. You're explaining away resentment, stress, and disappointment. So an example of level 3 and how it could show up for you is, again, going back to feeling tired, overwhelmed after taking care of the needs of everyone else. But instead of getting stuck in victimhood, which is level 1, or blaming, which is level 2, you're rationalizing and coping. Thinking things like, it is what it is, I just have to make the best of it. Or I should just be grateful for what I have. Or I don't have time to focus on myself, but at least my family's okay. So here you're accepting these circumstances, but not in an empowering way. It's more just avoiding conflict by rationalizing instead of addressing your needs. So you're feeling unfulfilled, and you might be asking yourself or saying to yourself, hey, at least I have a steady paycheck at work. Or when you're burnt out and you're tired of taking care of everyone else, at least I have a family that needs me. You're rationalizing there. And yes, this energy is a step up from feeling completely powerless and resentful, but it still keeps you kind of stuck in this good enough mode instead of really thriving. So you're tolerating instead of transforming. And a question you can ask yourself to see where level 3 shows up is, where are you just getting by instead of thriving? Now on to level 4. Level 4 is a service energy, compassion, and helping others. In level 4, you're caring, giving, supporting others, you're selfless, and you're helping others succeed. And you take very little personally, and you're able to see things more objectively. The core thought in level 4 is you win. So you have compassion for others, there's collaboration, there's teamwork and loyalty. And yes, level 4 is a very powerful energy. I myself have a lot of level 4 energy, and so do many of my clients. But there is a shadow side to level 4, and that is burnout and resentment. So for example, overgiving, you feel drained and you wonder why no one's taking care of you the way you take care of them. So you're dropping everything to help, and you're thinking things to yourself like, if I can help, I should. I just want everyone to be happy. I feel guilty when I say no, but at the expense of yourself. So you're always giving to the expense of yourself. That is the shadow side of level 4. So question you can ask yourself in level 4 is, are you giving to others at the cost of yourself? Okay, now on to level 5. Level 5 is opportunity energy. It's where you're seeing these challenges in your life as opportunities for growth. Everything is an opportunity. And the core thought here at level 5 is we all win or no one wins. The feelings are calm, powerful, entrepreneurial-minded, confident, with a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. And you live with the belief that you can do or choose your own life experience. You can do anything and choose your own life experience. So here's an example. Approaching your life with curiosity instead of resistance. So questions like, how can I make this work for me? Or every challenge is just an opportunity to grow. Or there's a solution to everything. So seeing possibilities everywhere. Being collaborative and flexible, understanding that there are no failures, only feedback, and just trusting that life is always working in your favor, even when it doesn't seem that way at first. So a question you might ask yourself to see where level 5 shows up is, what if your biggest challenge is actually your greatest teacher? I love that question because ain't it the truth? Okay, now I'm going to move on to level 6 energy, and that is flow energy. That's where intuition lives, creativity, deep trust. In level 6, you're seeing everyone and everything as part of yourself. There's a synergistic energy. Your intuition comes alive in this state. That's where creative genius comes, innovation. The core thought here is we always win. No one ever loses. And all that happens has purpose and value. So in level 5, there's feelings of pure pleasure, satisfaction, and joy. There's a deep sense of peace and joy, even in the midst of uncertainty. And I'm going to give you an example. So let's say your child makes a life decision, something you wouldn't have chosen, and you don't react with worry or resistance. Instead, you trust their journey. And when you feel called to make a big life change, for example, like switching careers or moving, you follow your instincts and know that you're supported by the universe. The thing that makes level 6 unique is that there is no good versus bad. Like that starts to fade. And there's no longer judgment in situations as being positive or negative. You're only seeing the experiences as unfolding. So you're deeply connected to people, nature, and even unseen spiritual forces. So a question here would be, have you ever had a moment where everything just clicked? That's level 6. Now on to level 7. Pure passion, energy, non-judgment, full presence, and peace. Doesn't that sound lovely? In level 7, you're completely objective in your thinking. There's no judgment and fearlessness. Your core thought at level 7 is winning and losing are illusions. They're terms that humans created to help us play the game of life by the rules we also created. And it's also important to be clear here that no human, even a Buddhist monk, no human completely resonates at this level. But with practice, everyone can access it. So like in meditation or in those moments where you're feeling like truly connected. So an example here is just having peace no matter what happens, like full trust, full peace. And the question here for level 7 is, what would it feel like to fully detach from outcomes and just be? Wouldn't that be lovely? So there you have it, the 7 levels, also anabolic and catabolic energy. What I want you to do is go through your life for the next week and just see where these energies show up. Again, there's no good or bad, right or wrong. We all have all of these energies. But when you're aware of how you show up in your life and which energy shows up when and where you might be self-sabotaging, you can make a conscious decision to shift from one energy to the next. And that's where the magic happens. So if you're feeling like you're on level 1 in your life, like you're a victim of your life, that is a perception. And that's what this whole method here is for. That is a perception of how you're seeing life. And if you're tired of feeling that way, there is a way to stop feeling that way. And that's what I'm going to be teaching in this workshop that's coming up next Thursday, I believe. Yeah, the 17th. I'm going to be teaching you exactly what you can do to shift out of one energy into another so that you feel more anabolic energy in your life. Or if you have a lot of frustration and anger in your life, or there's a lot of conflict in your life, you can shift out of that and still be productive, but in a way that feels better to you and also takes a lot less energy from you. And if you're feeling burnt out, like you're constantly giving, and not receiving, yes, there are perceptions here you're operating from that are sabotaging your quality of life. And you can shift out of them. And it all comes down to how you're perceiving the situation, your resonant energy level. So join me at next week's workshop. If you're watching this on the replay, I will have a link here for you to be able to watch the replay. So if you're hearing this, you're like, oh, darn it, I missed it. Oh my gosh, it's May 7th. What am I supposed to do? I am recording it, so you can still watch it. It's not gone forever, because these are two tools that I know for sure, if you impact them or if you implement them into your life will change for the better. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in my clients' lives over and over and over again. Because when you shift your perception of what's happening to you and what's happening for you, your whole view of your life and the world and the people around you will change. You will have the ultimate power to make your life exactly what you want it to be. No small feat. So there you have it, the 7 levels of energy. Bookmark this, share it with a friend, have really deep, meaningful conversations with people about it. Find me on Instagram, send me a message, let me know what you think. I love having conversations about this kind of stuff. And of course, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me. If you're ready to take the next step in transforming your life, be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. And if something resonated with you today, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts, tag me on social media, or leave a review to help others find the podcast. Remember, the smallest shifts can create the biggest transformations. I look forward to hearing from you.